If you struggle with emotional eating, then stay tuned. I'm going to give you the top triggers as to why it happens, then share an exercise to getting to the next step in dealing with it. Hello guys, what is up? My name is Kat. I'm a registered dietitian and I upload weekly videos on intentional and mindful eating, as well as sharing some of my minimalistic approaches to nutrition and nutrition coaching. And if you were here last week, or if you saw last week's video, then we talked a little bit about emotional eating in the combating cravings video. But I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the emotional eating side and give you some of the top reasons why they can show up or how it can show up, and then an exercise to kind of get to that next step. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Really, I want to preface this by saying that emotional eating is not inherently bad. Just because you do have emotional eating doesn't mean that it will take you away from your nutrition goals, or that it makes you a bad person, or whatever negative that you might think about when you hear about emotional eating. It's just a human reaction to something, and I see it as a way to have a more mindful approach. It allows you to be a little bit more intentional and to have that inward kind of look to see if it's something that is holding you back or really harming you, or if it's not really making a big difference in your life, if it's just something that you don't really need to, pay any attention to. So there are so many triggers that cause emotional eating, and they're not all negative. If you kind of think about celebrations or happy events, those can be triggers enough for emotional eating. A lot of times at events or celebrations, food is a part of that event. So that might not be something that is very common. It's not an everyday thing, but just knowing that food can be seen as something as fun, that is an emotional eating trigger itself. Some of the more ways that emotional eating can show up, and some ways that people are more what people kind of think of when they hear about emotional eating. Stress is a really big trigger for just kind of eating in order to soothe those feelings, those negative feelings. Same thing with anxiety. Food can be used as a way to kind of calm oneself, or you can attempt to use food as a way to calm yourself. If somebody is feeling lonely or unloved, food can be used as a friend. It could be bribery of yourself might be a trigger for emotional eating. So if I do this, then I'll be able to eat this. Or even procrastination of just kind of wanting to procrastinate and eat whatever you can find in order to say I will eat this first and then I'll do whatever I need to do. Loosening the reins might be one. If you have a very strict life or a very strict diet, sometimes loosening the reins a little bit can be a trigger for emotional eating and just overconsumption beyond, and in order to make up for that strictness. It could be self-soothing whenever you're upset. So being upset could be a trigger, or being angry or having rage or frustration. You might see food and eating food as an outlet for those emotions. It could also be boredom. Having boredom or being bored might be a trigger for emotional eating, and just seeing food as something to do. So there are a lot of different triggers for emotional eating, and those different triggers can span different aspects of life. So you might have an aspect of life, let's say your health is one aspect, your career is another, your structure of your life is another, maybe your finances is another. All of those different areas can have different triggers, and those triggers can span different aspects of your life. So that leads to the exercise that I love to do with people. And the first step is just to grab a sheet of paper and to write out the different columns for their different aspects of life. So you might write down your life structure, maybe your physical health, your financial health, self-development even as one. And then from there, under each of those life aspects, you would then write down whatever triggers often come up. So this is an exercise that provides a lot of inward kind of thoughts and might take several days or even a couple of weeks to actually do this exercise. But an example might be in your life structure column, you might put like loosening the reins as one because your life structure is just so strict. You could also, on the flip side, have your life structure, you could put boredom under there, but let's go with that original example of loosening the reins. The next step would be to write down the pros and the cons that that specific trigger has on your life. There would not be any pros if you weren't doing it. You are doing it essentially because it provides to you somehow in some way. So there will be some kind of pro. So using that example of loosening the reins, it might help you to feel free in the moment. It might help you to feel like less stress of having all of that strictness around you. So that itself is a pro. Now you'll have to write, now on the other side, you still write down the cons. So that might be that overconsumption that comes from whenever you have that trigger. That could be that you have this uncomfortable fullness in your stomach. It could be that over consuming that much zaps your energy, both physical energy and your mental energy, and maybe it keeps you from doing what you really want to do. So looking at both the pros and the cons, if your cons outweigh the pros, not necessarily in number, but in the impact that it has in your life, that is an indicator that you're ready to kind of take the next step in working with yourself or your nutrition coach to really create a plan in order to get beyond that and to have a plan of action ready to go whenever that comes up. So I realized that there were several different triggers and the exercise itself might not be as clear as if you were to see it written down and kind of have that example to work through it as you do it on your own. And so what I did is I put together this exercise, including the triggers and everything that you need in order to complete the exercise. And I put it in this handy dandy downloadable. So it'll be in the description box below. So if you want that, click that and it'll be sent right over to you. So that is all I have for you today. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And that's it. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.